because we talk about physical health, what about mental, in terms of mental fitness? And that way we'd be more open to it. So organizations are getting better at looking at this and discussing it. For example, some of the other issues out there is talking about mental health will make things worse. Really? In reality, open conversation reduces stigma and encourages people to seek help. But people seek help providing that the environment is right. Are you open? Are you sending the right signals? Are you having enough safe spaces for people to want to talk to about their mental health? Because that's what's important.
Mental health at work and for leaders is a subject that I'm trying to talk about a bit more this year on Leading with Integrity. And my guest today is very well placed to discuss this with us. He has some very relevant experiences, which he is quite open about discussing. His name is Raj Soren. He's also a mindset, business and stress coach. He's a speaker and author. He helps professionals and business owners boost their team performance and mindset. So this episode is not one to miss. If you're in any kind of leadership position, you may not feel as though mental health is an issue for you personally, but the unfortunate odds are that at least one of your team members in that team that you're leading will be. Therefore, it is an important issue to know more about as a leader. It's something you should be open to talking about. It's something you should be thinking about, how you can best create the right environment for the team. So on that note, let's get Raj on the show.
Welcome to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Leadership talk for the modern manager. With your host, David Hatch.
Raj, welcome to Leading with Integrity. Great to have you on the show. Really looking forward to this conversation. We've got some big and important topics we're going to try and tackle today in the next 50 minutes or so. So yeah, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me, David. I'm very pleased to be part of this production.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you. Yeah. So let's start by pushing into the deep end a bit, really. Tell us a bit about yourself, your career so far, what you do today and why you do it.
Yes, I call myself the Black Belt Mindset Business Coach. And this is because I have 40 years experience in martial arts, particularly Japanese Jiu-Jitsu and Aikido. More recently, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. On top of that, 35 years in the corporate world in sales management, in trading, and in sales. So that combined together, utilize the skills of helping individuals with better performance, organizations to deal with stress management, and to make sure that performance is a happier journey, so the culture is better as well, because unfortunately a lot of people are going through burnout. I personally went through burnout because one day I was at work, I thought I was having a heart attack, and I fell to the ground feeling faint, chest pains, not able to breathe, panicking. I rushed to hospital and they said, thank goodness it's not a heart attack, it is stress and burnout. So something in life. So I started interviewing people all around the world, and Professor of Psychology, Professor Andy MacDonald, forwarded the book and interviews from lots of individuals from different parts of the world, different roles in terms of CEOs. They could be in the army, they could be doctors, dentists, students, all different types of roles, sharing their story about how they dealt with burnout. And that one of the books I wrote is Coping with Stress and Adversity, Inspirational Stories, because things in my life happen that have led me to becoming a coach. And mental health is very important to me as well, mainly because I went through mental health issues, through burnout. COVID was a difficult time. I thought I was about to die. It took me each day not be able to breathe, having lots of different symptoms, and it took me about a year to recover. And that's another turning point in my life. Now, why is mental health important as well? On top of that is that my youngest daughter, who struggled during COVID time, went to university, and she told us that she's feeling that she wanted to self-harm, suicidal thoughts. And that was devastating for us to find that out. I was glad that she told us, and it was a struggle trying to get mental health support for her, especially when during COVID time mental health was gone through the roof. Trying to find a local place. Sometimes you may have to travel, a couple of 100 miles to try and get access to psychiatric care. She was diagnosed with psychosis, so hearing voices, which she's trying to run away, sometimes jump out a first floor window. So these are the challenges she was facing, and as a family, it nearly broke us. And the good thing is that she was getting help. She was in hospital for 4 months, and that's very difficult for any parent to try and deal with, and especially a young adult. 4 years on, we are so proud of her. She's in her final year at university, and rebuilding her life. The challenges are still there. She's still on medication, but how many other families go through this? How many of the families experience mental health, either with their family members, son, daughter, mother, father, uncles and aunties, hence me, getting more involved with well-being. And I run a men's health well-being group. Men, let's talk, don't suffer in silence. We have different speakers and stories. And combining that with martial arts has enabled me to help different people in different organizations, really identify the triggers in their lives and how to have coping strategies in place. Because you can't perform if you're stressed. If you're overstressed, rather than you need a bit of stress to keep you going, to get you through the challenges of your day. So these are some of the things I do, a bit about myself and a bit of a background. So it gives you an understanding of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, that's a pretty straightforward answer to the why bit as well, isn't it? It's clear to see. Wow. First of all, I'm so glad your daughter is thriving now. Great to hear that she did go back to university as well, because I imagine it would have been quite easy not to after that experience. And that's really nice to hear.
She's embraced her mental health by writing a musical called Psychosis. She's currently looking for funding and support for it. So anyone out there in that space, get in touch.
Well, that's very cool. Yeah. Awesome. And so, burnout, a pretty extreme case of that as well, by the sounds of it. Because, most people, there's a variety of symptoms, but thinking you're having a heart attack, that's a pretty extreme example, isn't it? So, why do you think it was that bad for you? Was it just that much stress on you? Was it the job? Was it a combination of loads of things? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a combination of factors. Everyone thinks they've got broad shoulders in terms of dealing with stress, and we have certain coping strategies. The challenge is that we're going from one job to another. Being a sales manager in a busy organization, lots of demands by your team members, by the organization you work for. And then you're going to have demands on your family. I've had four redundancies in my career, so that's going to add to managing that situation and debt and trying to find a new job and career. Even doing martial arts was a good thing, but I was doing too much martial arts in one extreme, trying to do a full-time career, being a parent, and trying to deal with all the challenges in personal life and health and well-being and supporting others as well. And I do some charitable work. So sometimes you have to know when the bow is going to break. But you think you're superhuman. You think you can keep going. But when you're stressed, you miss some of the signals. And you can't get any sleep. And sleep is a very important topic that we can talk about. And not having time to yourself, that me time, is vitally important and to replenish your body, your mind, and for your brain to start functioning properly. You can't think straight if you've got a foggy mind due to the pressures of stress. There's enough scientific data out there. There's something called, have you ever heard of people dying because of, what's the word I'm looking for? When someone passes away, and their partner passes away, then because of them, the next partner passes away. This is Taksubo cardiomyopathy, and Taksubo comes from a medical term, a Japanese way of when you fish for octopus. Taksubo is the shape of the vase, the pot vase that you use, and they use this description is that when you have a regular heart, your heart is pumping well. But when you're under extreme stress on a regular basis, then your heart changes shape. And this then can cause problems in your circulation, cause into illness, and then you can die as a result. However, that can be treated by reducing stress. So hence the people you die because your heart is suffering because the emotional trauma to your system. So that's one of the reasons that stress can have this burnout effect, but it has thoughts and feelings around you and experiences change the shape of your heart. That's amazing, isn't it?
That's fascinating. Yeah. I always find it like really interesting understanding like that connection between sort of the mind, the emotional, and then the physical impacts that can have. Because again, like I don't think we talk about that enough either, and understanding that better.
Yeah, it's a heart, body, mind connection. It happens in lots of different ways when we're frightened. There's different. We all experience stress in a different way. What can stress one person may not stress the other person. So it's how we see the world, how we react to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've all probably known or heard of or experienced those elderly couples where one goes very sad, and then within a year or two, the other goes as well. So yeah, yes. There must be a logical explanation for that, mustn't there? It's not, we can romanticize it a little bit quite easily, can't we? And say, well, they just couldn't live without them. But physically, maybe that's true.
Indeed. There's a lot of scientific data out there. We always hear this happen, and it tends to happen Christmas time and New Year's time. People trying to live for another year, they try and keep things together. Then they think, if my mind's to do it, then either the heart fails and other parts of the body fail as well. Yeah.
But then again, counter example as well. I've known a few who went on 30 or 40 years afterwards. So yeah.
Sometimes it depends on the relationship. It depends on how you handle that situation as well. You can be codependent on your partner, and then the whole world shatters around them if they're no longer around. They don't see the reason for existence. So that can lead to depression and all of the downward spiral of their health and well-being. And if they're not getting support from around them as well, then it becomes more challenging.
Yeah, fair enough. And so the mind and body connection as well, and particularly in the context of burnout and stress.
Yeah, indeed. Because sometimes your mind can't tell the difference between a imagined situation, and a real situation. Sometimes when you have a nightmare or you're dreaming, you're still as frightened. Your body still reacts to that. Your physiology changes, your heart rate changes, your breathing changes. But it happened in your mind. And sometimes 99% of things that we're scared of don't tend to happen. But we tend to think about more negative thoughts on a regular basis. Yeah.
Yeah, true enough. I guess it's like an ancient, evolved kind of defense mechanism, maybe, just like prepare for the worst, I suppose. I don't know. I don't understand the history of it as well as you do, I'm sure. But
indeed. They even did experiments back in the war when they used to have a prisoner. One prisoner will watch another prisoner, and their wrist would be slit, and the blood will be draining from them, and obviously that prisoner would die. Then they blindfolded the second prisoner, and they got a piece of ice, and they made that same cutting action on the wrist of that second person, and that second person died thinking they were bleeding to death. So situations like that is how much the mind can impact you, and that's in a negative way.
Yeah.
And in other situations where you have a team of basketball players, and then you've got two different teams that are trying to improve their game, and one team was asked to practice on the court, and they made some improvements, let's say about 10%, and another team was asked to practice in their head and as well as on the court, and they made a far better performance than those just practicing. And there's another team that just practiced in their mind, and they even exceeded the first two teams, because you can't make mistakes in your mind if you keep practicing perfectly. So it just shows you.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
With athletes and high performers in business, they visualize success and all the different challenges that come ahead of them. So the mind game is very important. Hence, me writing a book on black belt mindset and for life and business. So this is over 50 stories from different martial arts just from around the world, looking at how martial arts and the black belt mindset has impacted their lives, as well as improved their career and their business. Hence the title, Black Belt Mindset for Life and Business.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it sounds interesting, definitely. I have to say, that first experiment that you described sounds vaguely terrifying, and who comes up with the ideas to do stuff like that? Just,
yes. Horrible. It is horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a video been going around. I say been going around. I saw it a few times last year, I think, where it's kind of similar but less extreme. Where have you seen this? Where get someone to put their arm on the desk.
Yes.
And then they put the mirror so they can't see their other arm, but they think it's their other that because of the mirror, and it tricks the mind. Then they hit the table with a hammer and they feel the pain because they think it's their arm.
Very much so. Yeah, that just shows you that's parallel to the discussion we just had. Less extreme, but if they can feel the pain because they saw it, then this is how the body mind connection works, isn't it? People can feel the pain from across the room. They can feel the pain from the television, from other human beings. So we're all connected in one way. So that's probably why that it's a heightened experience, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, there's an interesting connection there to empathy and emotional intelligence that I hadn't necessarily connected until you just said that.
Yeah, very much so. They say that trees are connected in forests. If a tree is cut down, then the other trees recognize that through the root system. Certain flora in the Amazonia say that this interconnection, this empathy, whatever you want to call it, whether you believe it or not, there's enough scientific data out there saying that there is this connected plant fauna, trees, and as a whole, we are connected because we're on one planet. One thing affects the other. What we do, good thoughts, bad thoughts, actions and reactions, then it has a influence. It's like dropping a pebble into a pond, isn't it? It's a ripple effect. And in business, there's a ripple effect. If the CEO of an organization is not instilling good values, then that's going to go down, ripple effect to its senior managers, ripple down to its middle managers, ripple down to its salespeople and front line. So that is very important to have right type of leadership, right type of culture to support a growing mindset. Otherwise, it's just all pressure, stress, and burnout is impacting business in a big way. Even in bullying. Bullying happens a lot in cultures these days. We can't seem to get away from it. And even the charitable sector is saying that 60% of them have experienced bullying in some way, or people are leaving careers both in the business as a charitable sector because of poor management. Why is that? There is training, but there's not enough training, or people aren't absorbing their training because the senior managers are under stress as well to perform, and because of shareholders or for profits, all these different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons for that on there. To me, I think there's that difference between leadership and management as well that isn't always understood. I think it's easy to focus on one and not the other, or vice versa. And actually, I think you need both to do it truly effectively. You're absolutely right about the culture. I think, again, it comes from that top leadership and it has to flow down, which again is often where it goes off the rails, isn't it? Because there's that whole do as I say, not as I do sort of mentality quite a lot. And then even with training, I think the way a lot of businesses approach that, they sort of see it as a one and done. You do your 1 week leadership course and that's it. You know leadership now, job done. Yes, but I think leadership is one of those things where it's not that simple. It is a journey. It's something, and I've been coming more and more to this kind of view of this as well. You can't just do a course and then be good at it forever. It's a constant process of learning all the time you're doing it.
Yes, and the Japanese word we call is kaizen. It's continuous learning. And that's featured in the book Black Belt Mindset for Life in Business. And you're so right. Leadership is vitally important as a action piece for a weekly, monthly, and a yearly basis. It's a lifelong learning. I'm a TriCrest leadership and cultural coach, and we're always seeing that organisations invite us to try and solve an issue, but sometimes they are the issue. They want a quick fix. They think they want a course, but those business owners that recognise that you can't get the same results unless you change something. You change it either gradually, and you get buy-in from different parts of the business. You really dig deep in terms of how people are, reacting to decisions. Change management usually can be done swiftly without any involvement of employees, and that's very difficult for everyone. You're not going to get the best performance if you're not engaging the employees, having this 360 conversation, and building trust. Really, trust is vitally important. Compassionate leadership is more important these days than before. You talked about emotional intelligence. You might be intellectual, high IQ in terms of profitability, but at what cost? Can only last so long, and you see organizations suffer and people changing jobs as a result of it. So yes, culture, the right type of culture is vitally important, but I keep on working on it. Otherwise, like I said, it's lifelong learning. It's Kaizen.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan. I have heard the word before, but lifelong learning, definitely a huge fan of that. And I've said a few times, the day you stop learning is the day you stop leading. So for me, those are two sides of the same very important coin.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
we've got a lot of leaders in the world these days of governments that aren't leading in the right way.
Yes, indeed.
So much happening in the press each day. It's amazing that we're living in this the world we are living in compared to 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, even 10 years ago. It's kind of scary, isn't it? I try not to think about it too much.
Yeah, but like I said, it's this influence, isn't it? That ripple effect is we're living in a global economy. What happens in one side of the world with the big economies impacts our parts of the world here, other parts of the world. It's like a tsunami effect, isn't it, these days?
Yeah, very true. So going back again to the training point, whilst totally agree with everything you've said, totally believe in what I've said. However, I would also add, I don't want to knock those companies who are looking at leadership training, because that is still important. And it's, even if it's the first step, the fact they've got to that point, identified the problem and then decided to do something about it, I think not enough companies even get that far. So I do want to applaud them for that.
Definitely. That's great that these organizations are taking that step forward. They're recognizing that something has to change. So we can applaud them for that. And so, lots of organisations do a fantastic job, but can they keep it up? I think there's a lot of pressures on all companies. There's lots of buyouts. Share prices are driving a lot of this, and at the end of the day, we say that people are our best, sort of value for the organisation, but we have to show it by action, show it by changing culture, show it by listening, show it by understanding, and the best ideas sometimes come from the ground, base roots of the organisation.
Absolutely. And so on the subject of culture and change, mental health at work, that's something that I think it's changing, although I don't consider myself in the workforce so much anymore, so I don't necessarily see it like I would have 5 or 10 years ago. So I think it's changing in terms of that stigma around mental health, talking about it at work, admitting you have a challenge or something you need help with, that whole sort of, particularly in the UK, and that whole British stiff upper lip thing. Mm-hmm. It used to be you just didn't talk about it because it was a sign of weakness and you would fear for your job if you mentioned it. Yeah. I do think that is changing. I don't know what your experience of that has been.
It is changing in certain parts of the country and around the world. Reiterating what you said, mental health issues are a sign of weakness. That's what it was initially thought of. But in reality, mental health challenges are common and can affect anyone, regardless of their strength or capability. If you had a broken arm, you'd get flowers and someone coming to visit you. If you had mental health issues, people try and avoid you. We should be calling it mental fitness, because we talk about physical health, what about mental, in terms of mental fitness? And that way we'd be more open to it. So organizations are getting better at looking at this and discussing it. For example, some of the other issues out there is talking about mental health will make things worse. Really? In reality, open conversation reduces stigma and encourages people to seek help. But people seek help providing that the environment is right. Are you open? Are you sending the right signals? Are you having enough safe spaces for people to want to talk to you about their mental health? Because that's what's important.
Yeah, definitely. And I see a parallel there to leadership and culture as well. A safe space is a great phrase. And then there's this idea of psychological safety as well, which yes. I think applies way beyond this, but it's the same thing, isn't it? It's just for different purposes, I suppose.
Yeah, people are fearful of their jobs if they feel that they've got targets to meet and all these different goals. They're scared to speak out sometimes if the culture is not right. The psychological safety net needs to be there. And this starts from the top through HR and all the different services that they can provide. There's lots of good organisations out there that are encouraging this and moving in the right direction. But burnout is too high out there.
Yeah, and do you think burnout is getting more prevalent?
Yeah, it is out there, to a high extent. Like I said, I mentioned earlier that you're talking about 30 to 40% possibly going through burnout at some stage, and maybe up to 70% experience burnout throughout their lifetime, and not always coming forward with it to try and manage it in their own way. And it's not always mentioned to HR or to their bosses. And when it is mentioned, then all depends on how that lands, isn't it? Are they giving time to look after their health and well-being? Are they places where they can get that? Just by putting a safe space in a separate room with some plants and music, that's maybe sometimes isn't enough. Yeah, it can be a token gesture. It has to be a holistic approach so that all in the organisation can recognise this and reach out to people that need support, and people are brave enough to put their hand up and say, look, I need some help. where can I get the support I need?
Yeah. I mean, not to be flippant about it, but I feel like if you don't feel comfortable flagging that with your boss or your workplace, that's the red flag that you're in the wrong place, isn't it?
Yes.
Like,
you may think you were going to get the sack or something, you see, that's what people are scared of.
yeah.
And if they're going for promotion, and some people are putting a more braver face on than others, they think, oh, well, they can handle the stress more. This person's always off sick, then I'll give it to the other person.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's in some ways it's not just mental health, is it? It's the physical side as well. Like I've seen people not want to admit to a physical condition for the same reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've also seen, like, okay, I mean, this is a funny example because he was a bit of a character. He still is. But so he would come to work with a broken arm, like drive to work himself as well with a broken arm. Like, God knows how he did that. I'm pretty sure it was an automatic. He wouldn't have been able to do it if it was a manual car, but he did. Like, he didn't take a single day off, having like had this quite horrific sports injury. and that, I think, again, speaks to part of the culture, doesn't it, about what the expectation is. And why did nobody say to him that you should probably take some time off and rest, recuperate, heal?
Yeah.
You know, don't force yourself into the office. And clearly nobody said that to him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that whole thing. And it's the same with mental health, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the difference is you can't hide from that. You have a cast, your arm's in a sling, like everyone's going to notice that immediately.
Yeah. But that's interrelated to the fact that they felt they had to come in. That is related to the mental health as well. The physical health impacting on the mental health. There's examples in the book Coping with Stress and Adversity of people not recognizing those signs, and then later on finding out they've got a cancer or they've got a brain tumor because they're not. Your body gives off signals, whether it's your breathing, the ability to not be able to sleep properly, and doing daily activities. We're addicted to adrenaline, stresses, and cortisol has taken over in terms of impacting our body's performance. And hence, we really need to recognize these signs earlier so we can look after our minds and our bodies.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it was always the Sunday evening headache. That was always my warning sign. And when it got to the point where that was every week consistently, and then started happening on the Saturdays as well, that was the point I was like, right, time to make a change, not doing this anymore.
Yes.
So, I mean, what are some of the other signs that you think people should be looking out for? I mean, that's obviously a very small example, but...
Yeah, we mentioned earlier on about sleep patterns. Sleep is vitally important for our well-being. For example, you wouldn't run a car 24/7, 7 days a week, 52 weeks in the year. You have to stop it at some point. We're not machines, but we think we're machines. So sleep is important to get 7 to 8 hours sleep. Ideally, people say, I only need 3-4 hours sleep. Our brain has to have the right level of REM sleep. At the same time, they say that you can lose 10 to 15% of your IQ if you don't get enough sleep in scientific studies. But that can be reversed if you do get some regular sleep in. It gives your body and your mind time to relax. And the stress impacts on your sleeping ability. So monitoring that. It's worth having a journal to recognize. Ask family and friends to call it out, to say, look, you need to sort of cut back in certain things. You might not like it because most of us who are super achievers don't like being told to rest. Breathing is very important. When I say breathing, is that we forget to breathe in the right way. In this day and age, when we breathe in, we try and keep our stomachs in, don't we? And we forget about deep breathing and diaphragmatic breathing. So recognizing that, our eating habits. Are we eating in front of our computer all the time or in front of our phone? How much time are we spending in front of these devices? So this can affect our eyes getting tired. How much travel are you doing? Some people will travel thousands of miles a week to get to a place of work. And so combining all those things, what about your relationships with your partner, your friends at work? Are you getting irritated? Is your blood pressure going up more often? Are you eating the wrong type of foods? So this is something I talk about, something called MEDS, MEDS. M is for mindfulness. How much time are you spending on yourself, the me time? Just enjoying walking in the park, spending it with family, relaxing, enjoying yourself. E for exercise. We don't have to be super athlete, but are we getting regular exercise? Because if we're stuck in front of I know during lockdown, I was spending 7 to 10 hours a day in front of my laptop supporting my team. And I get backache, neck ache, headaches, all these things. So just getting out and about, bit of fresh air on a regular basis, even if it's a simple half an hour walk, makes a real difference. And having the right type of diet. Unfortunately, we don't sometimes, and D for diet, have the right type of diet. Are we getting more fresh vegetables, eating less meat, less processed food, and sleep? S for sleep. We talked about the importance of sleep. So MEDS, MEDS, so we remember nothing else. It's not medicine. It's mindfulness, exercise, diet, and sleep.
I mean, it sort of is medicine in a way, isn't it?
Yes, it's medicine for the body, yeah, but not the pharmaceutical medicine.
Indeed, yeah. No, I mean, that's great. As we were going through the list, I was thinking to myself, there's at least one of those I do badly, even now,
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, sleep is such a powerful one. I was amazed the difference that made to me. As soon as that source of stress was removed, almost the next night, I slept longer than I had for the last year.
It's getting that balance right, isn't it? And it's not easy. Yeah. We're living in a world where there's a lot of us having less physical activity, with demands on ourselves. Cost of living has shot up dramatically over the last couple of years. If you look at fuel bills alone, but wages aren't going up. I think the electricity bill is going up again, or the energy bills. Water bills are going up by 30%. So that is going to add to the stresses of someone's life, isn't it? Either have to work harder or cut back. You can't work any harder because you're already working hard.
It's only so many hours in the day, aren't there?
Yes.
I think, that cost of living one in particular, that I see that having a massive impact on diet as well, because so many people, that's the easiest one to cut back, isn't it? You just buy the less healthy stuff because it's cheaper. And why do we live in a world that less healthy means cheaper? That frustrates me as well.
This studies about low-income families living not as long as people in a middle class and richer ones, because they can't get access to quality food in terms of fresh produce, because it's usually more expensive. It's cheaper to buy beer sometimes than it is to buy water. Which is ridiculous, isn't it?
Absolutely nuts. Yeah.
Or takeaway food is getting cheaper. Rather than good quality food.
Yeah. And then there's back to that economy of time again as well. Like, it's the less healthy stuff is also more convenient and quicker, and you don't. So if you're working like 3 jobs to make ends meet and you don't have the time to prepare a proper healthy meal, you go for that. And again, like, we've all done that, I'm sure.
Well, this is it, and that's why they probably brought out these companies that ready meals. Hopefully, that might help. Obviously, grows companies' profits and everything else. But if it helps you have a better diet and you can afford it, then it's worth considering. Yeah.
I mean, they're not that cheap either, though.
This is it, you see. Only if you can afford it, if you've got the time. But like I said, there's a marketplace for that for certain people. Food banks have gone through the roof. The effect of the economy and redundancies, and people being laid off and difficult to find jobs. we're going through challenging times. The billionaires are getting richer, the middle class are getting squashed, and the working class people are suffering the most.
Yeah, indeed. So I'm slightly conscious of time.
Indeed.
A couple more questions for you. So, I mean, we've talked around a lot of these issues already, but what would you say when we talk about mental health at work? What are some of the biggest myths around that, even today?
Some of the mental health myths, really. Only severe mental health issues need attention. In reality, early intervention for stress, anxiety, or mild depression can prevent more serious problems in the long term. So don't wait till it's too late. Have education within the organizations to recognize these signs, and creating safe spaces, having conversations is very important. And another myth is that mental health is a personal issue, not a workplace concern. Look, who has to go to work? Everyone has to go to work, or in a business, or if you're running a business. In reality, work environments significantly impact mental health. And employers have a responsibility to support their employees. And the health safety executive, there is it's legal binding that you have to create a safe space for individuals. And there's a lot of statistics on health safety executive that are featured in my book as well. That stress can kill. Long hours. If you're handling machinery, for example, if you are an airplane pilot, you wouldn't expect them to work 24/7. There's usually someone else on the plane support. If you're a surgeon, you wouldn't want a tired surgeon stressed out having to operate on you. But we're living in times when, unfortunately, that's the case, because healthcare is under pressure. So mental health, mental fitness should be openly talked about. And if you're in the right organization, if not, try and make a change to that organization. Speak to HR, speak to the people that are willing to listen in that organization. If they're not willing to make changes, find another organization and keep on looking for the right organization, or sometimes go and work for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that first one in particular is, that bears thinking about, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of neurodiverse, 20-30%. They say that individuals are neurodivergent in a workplace. So what's being done for those individuals who might have ADHD, dyspraxia, autism, all these different sort of parts of the spectrum? And some organizations getting better at doing that, having earmuffs, say quiet spaces, desks that they can work from home, flexibility, flexi working, those type of things. So that adds to the better well-being and the mental health for that individual. COVID time, lots of people find it difficult because they changed their habits. They're used to getting into work and speaking with their colleagues, having that physical communication, touching, shaking hands, hugging, and that disappeared for many of them. And other times, it was better for people to work from home because they didn't have to have the travel. They didn't want to go to work because they knew that they might get bullied or the issues they had there. And some people, so we need to figure out what's best for the employee and for the organization, for the company. So having a flexible approach to working is vitally important, and understanding your employees, whether they are disabled in some way, whether they are neurodivergent, what is it we can do to help them, because they can perform to their best ability if you're giving them the right environment, the right chance. And organizations are starting to do that these days. For example, Microsoft has an autism hiring program, tailored onboarding support. Oticon UK, IT consultancy, exclusively employing autistic adults. There's a college I did a workshop at in Bradford that has just neurodivergent students. So there's things happening out there that helps people in the workplace?
Yeah, I mean, you've preempted my next question, actually. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting. I mean, it's good to hear that sort of progress is being made, because I don't want to sound old by saying this, but I do feel like that there's, again, so similar to burnout, it seems to be becoming more common. Like a lot of more people seem to be getting diagnosed with some form of neurodivergence.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's just we're getting better at identifying it, or more people are feeling comfortable enough to go and find the answer.
Yeah,
or a combination.
It's a tricky one, sort of working in this space as well, because I mentioned earlier about one of the daughters having mental health challenges, psychosis. There was also diagnosed with autism, late onset autism. I mean, women, tend to mask their autism better. They have coping strategies, so they say that women. Teenagers between the ages 16 to 25, it starts to come out then, and we start recognise, but because they're very good at coping. And identification is important as well. Like you mentioned earlier, are we identifying earlier? And there's a lot of things out there just saying, is it the environment that's impacting it as well? Is it genetics? Is it what we're eating? Is it what's in the foods and the other E numbers that are out there? It's difficult to say what is happening. It takes so long to get diagnosis. There's a couple of years waiting list for diagnosis. I was speaking to another coach who was diagnosed in their 50s with ADHD. They thought something was happening to them. They were slightly different than others, and it can be quite expensive. If you do it privately, it could cost them maybe £500 to £1,000 plus diagnosis. Not everyone can afford that. In my teaching my martial arts, when I was as a leader as well in a business, you recognise individuals, especially in martial arts. Within a few minutes, you know that child has neurodivergent challenges that they're facing, but sometimes their parents don't know. And how do you have that conversation? I wasn't, as a manager, taught much about this area, and that needs to be done more so these days, so that you at least got the right tools in place, that right level of empathy. There's people I work with that into hugging, into handshaking, and other people wouldn't want to do that. Not as much eye contact, and you start recognizing, this emotional intelligence, this body language. But how do we help them to be the best they could be? And as leaders, we can get it wrong lots of times, and hopefully we can learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a really good point there as well. People might not realise, and so I mean what you were saying earlier, which to be honest would be my default approach to anything like that. I mean, any person, frankly, like regardless of anything else, but is like meeting people as individuals, understanding what works best for them, and then as the leader and the manager, doing whatever you can to accommodate them, accepting that some workplaces have limits and others don't, and you might not have a choice. So like hospitality or factory workers, like operating machinery, that sort of stuff. Like there's only so much you can do in those environments as opposed to an office where
I think
the work could happen anywhere, frankly.
Yeah, I think clear communication is vitally important as well. Some people prefer to have a conversation rather than face to face, rather than over the telephone or getting emails or texts. Certain individuals cannot cope with WhatsApp groups because it's too much information coming at them, pinging all the time. So how do we best communicate with that employee that's productive for both the employer and employee? So it's this flexible approach, having sensory-friendly spaces, quite areas we mentioned it before, minimizing overwhelming stimuli. Sometimes people are used to having a desk which they own, that they sit on it's that pattern behavior, isn't it? But then if you have these hot desks that can freak some people out, and that kind of impact their ability to work. So having that flexible approach and understanding of your employee is vital.
Absolutely. And I think that, as I say, I think that's true for whether you're leading people who are neurodivergent or people who aren't. I think, like in a lot of the cases, the same rules apply here. You've got to have these conversations and understand how they best work, because it might just be a case of preference and that's how I best work. And it's as simple as that. But yeah, very, very important issue. And as you say, I think it's not being discussed enough. So I can only applaud you for getting into it.
Yeah, I mean, we do our best as coaches to listen and understand organisations, managers, leaders, employees, because then you've got a base to work from, to find out the truth, and we can set a course of action that helps that organisation perform better, have happier staff and employees. Because at the end of the day, you could be the most profitable organisation in the world, but you've got a bunch of miserable employees, or you can get it right and have a bit of both.
Yeah,
happy employees trying to do the best they can, and they will do it, everything. Employees supported in the right way will do as much as possible for the success of that organisation. They feel valued, They feel trusted.
Exactly. No, 100% with you there.
Leadership Heroes.
I only got one question left, and it's the mandatory one that everyone has to answer, I'm afraid. So it's called Leadership Heroes. So if you had to pick one person, but it could be anyone you could think of, alive or dead, past or present, real or fictitious, but somebody who, in your opinion, would perfectly embody leadership, who would that be and why?
Because it's Ramadan, and the most important person for me as a leader is Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, mainly because he was a visionary leadership, showed those wonderful qualities of empathy and compassion, resilience and patience. He was inclusive and very fair to individuals, and he's a servant leadership. He lived a very humble life. He didn't own many things. He lived a very meek way, but he had vast amount of knowledge and empathy and ability to engage with individuals. He's a fantastic communicator. He made decisive, courageous decisions, but he's also humble. So I would say Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him.
Oh, thank you for sharing. And I think you get bonus points because I don't think he's been chosen before. So
that's it. There you go.
Excellent. Yeah. And great example, ticking all of the boxes there for great leaders, in my opinion, as well. So thank you so much, Raj, for your time today. Really loved this conversation, actually. It went on all sorts of great big topics there, and we could have done another hour at least easily. Last thing I will ask you, if anyone would like to learn more about what you do, perhaps get in touch, where can they go? What's the address and so on?
Yeah, and they can get hold of me through LinkedIn and through my website, www.pdss.co.uk. That's Papa David Sierra.co.uk. You can find me on Facebook, Raj Soren. If you look for Black Belt Mindset, my book, you'll find me that way as well. Yes, reach out if I can support you some way. My email address, if you do need it, is rajsoren@pdss.co.uk. It's been a pleasure, David. Thank you.
Likewise, yeah, and I will put those links down in the show notes so everyone can find them easily as well. Thank you so much again for your time, Raj. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Raj, thank you again for your time today. Appreciate we did overrun a little bit. I hope I didn't make you too late for your next meeting, but thank you also for that conversation. Some big, important, meaningful topics there. You were very open with us, shared some very personal stories. So thank you for that. And I hope it's beneficial to the audience. I'm sure it will have been. Listener or viewer, if you would like to learn more about Raj, about the work he does, you will find those web links in the show notes, in the episode description. Click on those, go and learn more. Do reach out to him. That's all we've got time for today. Thank you so much for being with us. I've also included below a selection of links to various mental health resources and websites where you can seek assistance. And I think one of the most important messages to take away from today is do reach out to people, do seek support. Nobody has to suffer in silence or alone. Thanks for being with us today. I hope you'll be back again next week when I'll be chatting with my next guest, coach and all-round optimist, Lindsay Bird. Until then, stay safe and be a leader, not a boss.